Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm talking about the latest Marvel entry called the Thunderbolts. This is the latest, like I said, MCU entry in their, I believe, Phase 4, Phase 5 of their franchise. Um, we're not quite to Avengers Doomsday quite yet, but this is kind of the big setup movie to kind of get us, ready for what Avengers Doomsday is probably going to be about, what it's going to feel like. But in the Thunderbolts, you guys, if you don't know anything about it, basically we follow a bunch of secondary characters from previous Marvel films, whether it's films like Black Widow or Ant-Man and the Wasp, um, some other like minor characters too, kind of like Winter Soldier and Yelena from also from Black Widow, and Red Guardian also from Black Widow. And so we follow all these characters, and they're sent on this mission that's basically ran by Valentina, who's basically works for Thunderbolt Ross from the previous Marvel films. And they all get sent on these similar missions, and they eventually all get trapped in one place where each of them find out that basically they're assigned to kill one another. And so basically, with that discovery found out, with them basically trying to be disposed of, this group of characters decide to team up. There is a character that is basically about to emerge in the city that has this dark energy that could consume the city if he basically succeeds. And so basically, all of them have to team up. They move into the city, and they have to prove to everybody that they're not worthless, that they're not these just throwaway characters, that they really do mean something to society. And they do their best to stop this new character, this new threat, and also try to kind of correct what Valentina's been trying to do this whole time of dispose of them and prove that they are worth something, that they are worth value of something, and that they can save the day just like the Avengers can. But overall, guys, I thought this film was very good. It's not, an absolutely amazing movie. I know a lot of people really, really seem to like this film based off of Rotten Tomatoes and other YouTube reviews and stuff like that. I really enjoyed this movie. I don't think I absolutely fell in love with it. I really, really enjoyed it though. There's things about it that I really liked. There's certainly some characters in it that I feel more invested in now than I did previously. So even if you didn't like films like Ant-Man and the Wasp or Black Widow or anything like that, I think this film justifies their existence. They justify more what they provide for the MCU, what they could do for the MCU. Even small things like Red Guardian being a very effective comic relief character is very much well established here. So it's a very enjoyable Marvel film. I think we're definitely back on track with finding a direction for where things are going to lead up to as far as where the next Avengers films are going to go. So it's just really nice to see a really fresh take on a superhero film while also finding direction within its franchise as well. So, for my positives and negatives of Thunderbolts, you guys, first and foremost, this is a very fun film. It's a film that's definitely has its action, has its comedy, has kind of its secret agent missions, if you will. It has, moments where characters can kind of spill the beans on how they feel on certain things. And it also does explore mental health in interesting ways. So I thought that was a very fresh way to kind of handle a movie like this, where it is very much about how these characters feel like they aren't really worth anything because the real Avengers get all the attention, but now they get the attention now as well. But it's just a very fun film in the sense that from scene to scene, there's always humor, there's always action, there's always drama, there's always something going on, some type of genre being explored that keeps us invested and interested in what these characters are up to. And like I mentioned previously, another huge positive for this film is it does feel like the MCU does have direction again. Previously, it just felt like, we're going to introduce the Eternals, but we're not going to do anything with them. We're going to introduce these characters, but we're not going to do anything with them. We're going to have all these shows on Disney Plus, but we're not going to do anything with them. And so it's nice to see that instead of just, hinting or teasing or introducing us to new characters, they are trying to use basically the roster that they have right now and are trying to find direction for where they could possibly go with the MCU as a franchise. And it's just great to see them in a clear path of where exactly they're heading towards in the future with this franchise. And like I also mentioned previously, I do like how the film does explore mental health in interesting ways. There's even a lot of sequences where Yelena and the villain of the film basically sit down with the character and they explain, why they are the way they are, why they feel awful the way that they do. And so there is a lot of sequences here where it does explore mental health in interesting ways. There's even scenes where they enter like a void-like place and they have to outsmart the void and stuff like that to get out of it. So there's a lot of stuff like that along the way that is very effective here. So I do like how the film explores mental health in an interesting way in a Marvel film as well. And there's a new character named Bob here that I'm not going to get too much detail on because there is a lot of major plot points involving him. But all I'm going to say about Bob is that he's a very interesting character. Louis Pullman from Top Gun Maverick plays him here, so it's Bill Pullman's son. For those who've seen Spaceballs, you know who Bill Pullman is. Um, and I do like how his character explores the dangers of loneliness, how when you feel really alone in the world, that you feel that your problems exist and that you really can't be a major contributor of society due to your issues. I do like how the film explores the dangers of feeling that way, how, not being together with somebody, not having a community around you that can support you and love you and care about you and really make you feel like the best person possible. How important those things are to basically get out of that lonely state, and how the character of Bob very much represents this, and all the things that the film explores involving this character, as well as loneliness. I also thought David Harbour was very effective as the Red Guardian character. Very fun character. He's very much a father figure to Yelena, who's Florence Pugh's version of Black Widow. So it's very refreshing to see another fun comic relief character, while also seeing another really effective father figure character enter the MCU. He runs this taxi service ever since we last saw him from Black Widow, so it was fun to kind of see his little contribution that he adds to other characters in the movie as far as transportation is concerned. So very fun character. Always love seeing David Harbour play the character again, and hopefully in future MCU movies we can see even more David Harbour playing a more fun Red Guardian as well. And then that goes into my next positive. I really liked seeing what Florence Pugh did with the Yelena character, how she does have a lot of problems, she does have a lot of issues, but she's also a very well-rounded character. She's not just, the pretty Black Widow character. She is strong, she is tough, but she also has a lot of problems. She has a lot of issues with her father. She has a lot of issues with trusting other people and stuff like that. And so they do explore how her character is well-rounded and has a lot of things going on with herself as well. And I just liked how the film explored a lot of things going on with her since we last saw her in Black Widow as well. I also liked how the film does have the message of finding your purpose again, because there is a lot of times in our lives where we get turned down for something, or we don't get that job, or we don't get that girlfriend, or we don't get that boyfriend, or we don't get the house that we wanted, or we don't get the apartment that we wanted. And so there's just a lot of times in our lives where we feel like we've done something where our purpose feels lost. And so I do like how this film really does remind us that, finding your purpose again, finding something that brings your purpose back again, are all very important things. They're all very important things to keep our lives going and to really feel like we're, living the best possible life. And so I do like how this film does keep that message of finding your purpose again and maintaining it. But for my negatives of Thunderbolts, unfortunately the film does spend a lot of time with these characters stuck in this trap that Valentina put them in, and unfortunately a lot of the runtime is spent in that place. And not that that's bad, but the problem is when we get out into the real world, the film, because it's only about a 2-hour movie, we only get maybe about 50-45 minutes out in the real world of them doing stuff. And so, though I didn't hate this, I'm really glad that they threw away the draft, or they would be stuck in this trap for most of the movie. I really wouldn't have liked that at all. And it sounds like a lot of people that have heard about this on the internet are really happy that they didn't go that direction either. But they do spend a lot of time in this trap that they're stuck in. And yeah, there's humor. Yeah, there's like fun little moments like, oh, okay, that's kind of clever how they got out of there and stuff like that. But I think they do spend a lot of time in this trap that they're stuck in. And for me personally, if I was the editor of this film, I probably would have trimmed down a little bit of that part of the story as well. I definitely like the more real world stuff where they're out and actually being the Thunderbolts, actually outstopping the bad guys, outstopping Valentina, and correcting her wrongs and stuff like that. So they do spend a lot of time in this trap. Me personally, I think they could have trimmed down a lot of minutes from that scene. And I won't get into too much detail on this next point because it would be potential spoiler territory, but all I'm going to say is they really do waste this one character that's really not in the film for very long, and this character is featured in the posters, featured in the marketing, featured in the trailers, featured in the posters, and this one character literally shows up in one scene and only has one line of dialogue. And so for me personally, it just feels like a waste. Oh, and by the way, too, this person has also been in other interests in major starring roles as well, as love interests and supporting roles and stuff like that. So it really does feel like kind of a waste that Marvel wanted to get rid of this character as soon as possible, and so they put this character in the movie, only featured this character in one scene, only gave this character one line, and that's how they have disposed of her for future MCU purposes, and that's really too bad because I know this specific character has something pretty interesting to do in the comics, so it's just kind of too bad that Marvel chose to throw this character away. So, me personally, and it sounds like a lot of other people online are kind of upset about that too. Kind of a waste of this character that, and for those who saw the movie, you probably know what I'm talking about, but just kind of a waste of this minor character in the film. I also thought the film overall didn't really maintain a consistent tone. There is a lot of parts where it is trying to be all humor, is trying to be all action, is trying to be all secret agent mission. And for me personally, it just felt like it didn't quite blend as well as they were probably hoping for. I got that they were trying to go for, more like a four quadrants, appeal to everybody kind of a story. But for me personally, I like films that have a consistent tone. They have a consistent sense of humor, a consistent sense of lighting, a consistent sense of what the whole entire film is going to feel like. It's fine if there's going to be the occasional scene that's a little darker than usual or a little more comedic than usual. But for me personally, I don't like it when a film from scene to scene feels like it's playing around with different tones. And for me personally, that's kind of what Thunderbolts felt like. It's like, let's kind of go darker here, more comedic here, more secret agent here, and stuff like that. And though none of them are necessarily bad things, I just would have preferred a more consistent tone for this story. And for the most part, too, this is a very dark MCU film. It does explore a lot of really dark subject matter. So for those who are really sensitive about, people dealing with depression, people dealing with a really dark time in their lives, people dealing with a dark household and stuff like that, this film does explore a lot of that kind of stuff. It is PG-13, so they're not going to show you everything in regards to that kind of stuff. But being PG-13, they do show you quite a bit of stuff that is very ballsy, is very dark, and for me personally too, I could see a lot of people specifically that are more of the fun side of the MCU probably being a little turned off by that. But it is there. Just want to bring it up. So for those who really don't like that kind of stuff in their movies, there is quite a few of that in Thunderbolts, unfortunately. And I would say for the most part too, make sure you are caught up on most of the Marvel movies, so most of the MCU type of movies. Not necessarily the Disney Plus content or anything like that, but just make sure you're caught up on, like, I would say Black Widow for sure see, Ant-Man and the Wasp for sure see, and then potentially see Falcon and Winter Soldier if you haven't seen that already on Disney Plus. I would say those are kind of the big three right now. Also, too, I would say if you could see Captain America Brave New World, the most recent one, there is a lot of scenes that kind of acknowledge stuff that happened in that movie. So it is one of those movies, unfortunately, where the more you know about the Marvel stuff going on, I think the happier you'll be with the overall product, because they do kind of go back to things that happened in previous Marvel films quite a bit. But overall, I'm going to give Thunderbolts an 8.5 out of 10. It's a very nice movie. There is a lot of things about it that I really admire. Like I said, some negatives along the way, certain creative choices that I really couldn't get behind very well. But for the most part, it's a very enjoyable Marvel film. Makes me very interested and intrigued as to what they're going to do with, Avengers Doomsday and stuff like that. So if you like Marvel films, if you're interested in seeing what Marvel has to display next, and if you've been disappointed so far with a lot of their stuff, I think this film is going to work their magic and hopefully get you back a little bit more. So I would say 8.5 out of 10 for me. I recommend seeing Thunderbolts.